and Mark Patton. How are you guys doing? You having a fun weekend?
Yeah, that's been a great weekend.
Yeah, it's fun. It's nice to be in Sacramento. Everybody having a good time?
Yeah.
So, right off the get-go,
Oh, look at this.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes, I've got it.
Freddy, Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, is very dark. And then a lot of people, my age, mid-30s, when we think of Freddy Krueger, we think of the cries, the wisecracking Robert Englund character, and welcome to prime time. And you guys got a completely different version of that character. In the first one, he is dark. Honestly, in my opinion, in your guys' Nightmare, he's even scarier. Like, Robert Englund's performance is terrifying. So when you look at the whole franchise, where your guys' movie is, he's white, he is coming after you, possessing you, and you are really struggling with him. I mean, he is terrorizing you, and you're the support structure for him as he's going through it. What was that like on set? Because it is an intense horror movie, in my opinion. Like, it's scary.
Very good. Well, yeah, we've thought about this a lot. I just completed a documentary called Scream, Come With Me, My Nightmare on Elm Street. And it's about Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And actually the politics of the film.
Oh, yeah.
The politics of Hollywood. So the first thing you need to know about Nightmare on Elm Street 1, 2, and 3, and the whole series from our point of view is when Nightmare on Elm Street 1 was made, Robert Shea had sold all of the rights to make the movie. So he made the movie and he was broke. So Wes Craven didn't want to make a second part. So, but they needed to make that second part to get the money, because the money from the second one is what paid for the rest of the franchise. So why we're the outlier is because when Wes Craven came back, right, he just ignored part 2. He pretended part 2 never happened. And this gets into the politics. If you look at the casting, right, if you look at the credits, Nightmare on Elm Street 1 is starring Heather Langenkamp. Nightmare on Elm Street 2 stars Mark Patton. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 with Robert Englund. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is starring Robert Englund. So Robert Englund takes control of the franchise in part 3. And it becomes more and more about Freddy and less about the kids. Right? So we're a very character-driven movie. Robert's only in 12 minutes of Nightmare on Elm Street 2. His presence is everywhere, but he's just he's a character actor. And it's about him, but it's really about our family. And why ours holds up in a nice way is because the parents are unusual, because you know who the parents are. You know who she is. You know who her parents are. You know who you know our story. We have a good story. And it is dark, and it would have gone darker and darker and darker, except for, Robert became Freddy Krueger, and it became a franchise about Freddy Krueger. And he was more powerful than the director. So he could make it more about him as kind of a fun. And most of you have probably seen Robert, he can really talk. So, he had like some ideas and he wrote them. But for me, I like the first and the second one the best. I think they're very dark. I love the music, the cinematography. And, quite frankly, I think, with sounding arrogant, I think we're really good. So, I'm very proud of it 35 years later. I think we did a really great job. We talked about this a lot, so I think she's fabulous. She's playing a boy's part, actually. I'm playing a girl's part. I'm the victim, and that upset a lot of people, because they don't like to see boys be like, I always say to people when I go into the room, they're like, because people come to my table all the time and it just drops me cold. Oh, you scream like a girl. It's like, if I hear that one more time. It's like I'm 8 years old again. And it's like, I'm the boy that they're throwing rocks at, But I always say that, especially big straight guys, I would say, if I stuck this in your eye, you would scream like a pig. You wouldn't be like, hey, I'm really afraid. You'd be like, and then I would go away and take those two. And then you'd really scream. But yeah, so all that. How about you? Go ahead.
I feel so bad. My experience, so the question was, what was it like on the set?
Yeah,
Right?
because with the tone. And then on top of, or I'm sorry to cut you off, but his point is really good. The roles are reversed. And was that just something as an actor that hit you guys as you were playing that role? Or was it just kind of like an afterthought after you were done and you were just running with it?
Well, I mean, it was scripted that way, so the script dictated the story and the tone. Look, I mean, for me, it was my first acting job, professional acting job. And I had heard of Elm Street. I deliberately didn't see the first one because I didn't want any preconceptions. But I met, so I hadn't met Robert Englund, or slash Freddy yet, intentionally, but he was absolutely in character. He was terrifying, and I was so invested, as we all were, being paid to do this job. It was a job. My task was to care about my boyfriend more than anything in the world in the story, and so yeah, it was a scary atmosphere at times. It was a playful atmosphere at times. It just depended on the circumstances of the day.
So she's coming in completely fresh for you. Had you seen the original? Or?
Well, actually, I screen tested to play Gwen in the first Nightmare on Elm Street. So it was between Johnny Depp and myself for the first one. And I screen tested with Heather. And then I didn't get that, obviously. I'm actually in a different movie that would be. If I had played Gwen, it would tonight be well. But I knew of Robert and had met Robert before we began the movie. And I knew Robert as a character actor, and I really liked him in movies like Buster and Billy. He played an outliner. And I remember thinking when I saw this movie, where did they find, it's very specific. It's like a very specific character. And it was Robert, of course, years later, I knew that. And also, I came onto the playing field in a little different situation than Kim did, because I came off a huge hit movie. And actually, Robert was a little intimidated to work with me. So, I mean, I've just been working with Robert Altman, I was meeting with Frank Bow, we've been to the Cannes Film Festival. I did a movie with Robert Altman that the cast was Cher in her first movie, Kathy Bates in her first movie, Sandy Dennis, Karen Black, and myself. And we had done that on Broadway before. So we had been together and traveled the world. So when I met him, it was, the playing field was a little more level than it was with him.
Yeah.
Like I remember when Kim came in, they let Robert Russell and I choose the person who was going to play the piece. And they had a girl who was dark hair and blonde, and obviously we chose Kim because we loved her. Little girl, she was young. She was like maybe 19.
I was 19.
19, and off to college, right?
Yeah.
Trying to decide whether she should go to college.
Yeah. No, I know.
You had been the
Yeah, I
semester.
had done my freshman year.
So she was, and I was older. I'm quite a bit older than she is. So.
When you guys read together for the first time, was it just like instant chemistry, or was it something that you guys kind of had to work on a little bit?
For me, it felt, I just felt totally at ease.
Same with me.
Absolutely.
I mean, you get put in some really, unusual situations at the beginning. I mean, like, we were tasked and then very quickly started filming. I mean, probably a couple of days later, she was shopping her costumes, I would assume. And, and I was carrying a movie, and she's really carrying a movie too. So these are big parts, they're not little parts. And we really didn't have a lot of time to prepare on a certain level. But I remember we had a week worth of rehearsal, or some days worth of rehearsals. And with all this Harvey Weinstein stuff going on right now, I think about this in a certain way. Because you have to think, we were very young, innocent people, right? And I remember we had one rehearsal, it was above Spago, if you remember. And really, all they wanted to do was see us make out basically have sex for like 2 hours. Remember? We were laying on the floor kissing to see if we kissed well together, and like all these like old men are sitting around watching us. And I never really thought of it in that terms, because I'm pretty bulletproof when it comes to that. But I think about you like now as I'm older, think about you like the 19-year-old you, and knowing you as I do.
Yeah.
In that room, like having to make out with a stranger, and that's a part of our job. It's very weird. It's all weird.
Some of the makeup for this film is stuff that, I've gone through haunted houses and seen the scene where Freddy cuts himself out of you.
Right.
That scene is just incredible practical effect.
It is, isn't it?
Like it is just amazing. How was that day? Like that had to be just like a crazy day to film that.
For me, for the practicals? Yeah, that took about 5 days to film in total, the transformation into Greatest Death. And it's my favorite scene in the movie is Greatest Death, like the aftermath of that, for me personally. But, because I like that kill, because, all of these kills get very weird, but his is very simple. It's just like, take this glove, shove it in, and you can see yourself being confused as a young person in a room, and accidentally killing somebody, or believing that you did. We've all had that during time. So I like that. But Mark Sjostrom built that, right? And Kevin Yeager did Roberts, and Mark Sjostrom did mine. And I was buried in concrete, the whole whatever, cement or whatever, for quite a few days for that. And there were 6 or 7 mechanicals. But Mark always said, when he gave interviews with Fangoria, as does Kevin, it's like, that's the great thing about practicals, because I don't like CGI, and I'll tell you what. The minute I see 10,000 soldiers, I'm out of the movies, right? And what you lose from CGI to the practical is the eyes of the actor. And the eyes of the actor, it emanates their soul out to you. And the power of there's somebody who said your energy is thrown as far as you can see. Like, I can connect with any of you very easily. Like, you can connect with me, like we feel each other. And that happens in the movies, too. And the minute you go into a computer, you go into a dead soul space. And so, it's the actor and the artist working together, and the director.
Yeah.
Everybody's working in concert to make that happen. So, I love it. And you? How did you feel about cutting into Freddy and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I didn't have any. Oh, in the night, that's right. Yeah, in the kitchen. Well, it was, again, it was all back to circumstance, and it was definitely hyper reality, obviously, pretty but it was, I just remember the kind of, it was the idea was very freaky and disturbing and upsetting to think, on Holiness Night. But it was all about my point of view, which is I need to defend myself. I need to defend myself. I need to protect and rescue my boyfriend. So it was all, the circumstance was really good.
Another image that's super famous from that is the infamous kiss, where it's almost like nightmares do come true versus fairy tales, where it's like, I love you, and you're kissing, and you got, Freddy on that. Like, when you guys are making that imagery, fast forward to present day, would you ever have guessed that it is one of the more, classic horror stills that people, Google Nightmare on Elm Street 2, and there she is trying to save his life with a kiss.
Yeah, I get it. I absolutely get it. He was the ultimate evil villain at that time, and so it was so contrary.
Yeah.
Like one's instinct would be to kiss this gruesome, horrific, evil, entity. Conquers all.
The look he gives you too is like priceless after the fact. It's like that dazed and confused, because as they're battling in between Freddy, and it's almost, it's when it starts to waver, but that look is like, God, he must have been crazy to kiss me.
Yeah.
Well, he respects her and he walks away, though.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, like, because he knows who he's dealing with. Well, I mean, that's like that Joseph Campbell myth, really. I mean, it is the beef. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like you have to walk through the hell, and she walks, and she's willing to walk through hell for her
Yeah.
friend. You know, that's she's not leaving unless he comes with her,
Right.
and she's prepared to like lay down her life to bring him out of hell. And she does. So, and again, like when you go back to the politicals, that's the thing that people were confused by in the '80s. Less even than the homosexuality, really, because it really is more. It's less about homosexuality, honestly, than it is about gender. And like there was a doctoral thesis done on Nightmare on Elm Street called "Reconsidering Jesse," right? And his thesis in the end was, and Fangoria printed this, right? So it's like there's like everybody like Jesse's not really the homo in the movie. You know that, right? It's Freddy who's the homo. It's like he is pursuing Jesse. Jesse's not pursuing Freddy. The person who's coming after the boy is Freddy Krueger. And just interesting things like socially. Like we got a thing on, of course, most of you know, if you know me, you know, like there's a lot of talk about Scream Queen and all that kind of stuff. And I tried to work with that, with the Trevor Project and whatnot. But we had this guy somebody posted a Freddy in a rainbow sweater and on my post, on one of my pages. And this guy from Scotland just went ballistic, right? He was like, do the gay people have to take everything? You know, it's like, why are they trying to take Freddy Krueger for the break? And I wrote to him, and I was like, dude, you understand that he's a psychopathic child murderer, child molester, right? If you want him in your camp, you can have him. You don't really want him in this tribe over here. We're trying to avoid it. But it's so funny how people get about things like that, you know? It's just like, it's kind of laughable. But I think it's more about gender. I think she's the hero, or like Maya Angelou would say, she's the she-ro, and I'm the victim. I'm the final girl, you know? And a lot of people just couldn't, at that particular time, handle it. Now they love it. You know, we're very popular around the world for just why people didn't like it in the beginning. They now love it. So it's just time.
Yeah, the story arc of your story from what you two created, but then you know the storyline of you. It's almost like you were outed by the media,
I love it.
and I can't even imagine how that would be to go through because people were a lot less accepting. I mean, it's not like your movie came out, 60, 100 years ago,
right.
But you go back to that, way less accepting society than what we have today. It's like you just said, now they love and they endear these characters. I mean, if you don't want to talk about it all, but I'm curious, like, what was that like to have to go through that, where you are this character, and you're gonna be noticed on the street. You're gonna, people are writing these articles about it, like, and now here you are. Now you're an activist, and you've done this. You've gone through all this story. I'm just curious, like, how does it go from Nightmare on Elm Street 2 to now? You are very, you're well known along, and you are not shy about anything. How was that for you internally?
Did any of you ever watch American Idol? American Idol? And remember, if you do, if you're old enough, when Kelly Clarkson won, and she sang this song called "One Moment in Time," where you're just like, everything slows down, and it all clicks into you. And this was my moment, and I didn't know it at the time. And something was being set up way back then that would come to fruition many, many years later. But it was horrible, because I'm from Kansas City. I came from a place where if you looked this much different than another person, you were it. I literally thought a Jew was a metaphor in the Bible for the chosen people of God, and we were all Jews. I mean, that's how naive I was. I had never met a black person. I thought Italian people were really exotic. I mean, Italian Americans. I'm not talking about from Italy. So I moved to New York, and it's like, and I was gay, and I was living, my lover at the time was a big movie star, but we were very private, and you weren't allowed to be open in your public life. So, and all of a sudden I'm in a movie, and it's my first movie, my one big movie I played a transgender person in. Then I got raped in another one. But here I'm going to be the all-American boy, right? This is Mount Everest, just to be normal. And personally, you know, it's like, can I pass as normal? Like I had an agent say to me one time, why do you think you're such a freak? And I did. I mean, I literally, that's what I thought. And I thought, if I can pass myself off as a normal guy, right, then I'm going to be a big movie star. So here's my movie. And right in the middle of it, my makeup artist said to me, be careful. Because there are traps all around you. Because this guy was writing this as a gay movie. And I realized it in the middle, and I was like, oh God, I'm in my nightmare.
Yeah.
Because you could have put anybody in this movie. And they would have been like, oh my God, he's so gay.
Yeah.
But like, I'm getting on a world stage for the first time, and people are going, oh my God, you're such a faggot. I mean, imagine that being you. And your dream had just come true. You're in Times Square, every theater is sold out, you're on the cover of every magazine, and then the rumors start. And HIV is happening, and AIDS is happening. And all of a sudden, agents don't want you to be gay anymore. Like, they don't want to insure you. It's like, it was like being in quicksand, you know? And I saw my dream come true, and I saw it evaporate in front of my eyes. But I quit, to be quite honest with you. I stopped. And my great regret in life is quitting. I wish I hadn't. I wish I would have been brave enough to say, fuck you, you know, I'm gonna be the one, you know? And then I did come back again. I did come back and reclaim. And I reclaimed my story. And that's what I've been doing for since Never Sleep Again. Is saying, you know what, you guys are the people who are telling this story, because you always say the winners get to tell the stories. So in Never Sleep Again, they were telling the story, and the story was a lie, right? The story they told in Never Sleep Again is a big fucking lie, right? And so I went on the road, and I decided to tell the truth. And that's what my documentary is. And my documentary will be on Netflix, you'll get to see it. It's going to be at Tribeca Film Festival. And it took us 5 years to make it. But it's the truth, about the real truth, about what happens when your dreams explode in your face, and how you can still come back and reclaim your story and say, this is me. And if you don't like it, too bad. Go to the other room and hear another panel about people talking about something else. This is my story, this is who I am. So that was it. It's wonderful. It's very scary at times.
Yeah.
You know, because you think, like, I go to, like, North Carolina, really, you know? I'm, like, sitting in this room, and these big old rednecks come up to me and go, I love you. I love you, too. And I have to remain open-minded, you know, because I want to go into I see these people, you know? Like, I used to be afraid of poor people. And I go, like, the people who had black hair and black eyes and all that, they were the enemy. They scared me. And over the course of the years, I've learned that poor people are some of the most gentle people in the world, actually. And then a lot of them were abused or made fun of or whatnot. And this is a tribe, you know? And I've met more gentleness here than I've met almost any place. And from the big rednecks, too. You know? They're like, I love you, and I'll beat the shit out of anybody who comes on that. And I'm like, I'm good, dude. I got a gun in my pocket. So that's my experience. So yeah, it's been mostly positive, actually. Yeah.
It's the story arc of it is incredible, all the way from the film and now all the way back to your documentary. When is it going to be on there?
We just saw the answer print. We actually did I always tell a joke about this where I thought, I'm gonna make this documentary, I'm so mad, I'm gonna make this documentary and it's gonna take 6 weeks and $10,000 and I'm gonna shove it up their ass, right? You know, like $250,000 later and 5 years. It's done. I saw the answer print 2 weeks ago, and we have some commitments to people that we have to honor as far as funding goes. But you know, this is like the snowflake thing, you know, like magical thing. The last $25,000 of my film was provided by Robert De Niro, whose father is gay, and he gave it in his father's name. And so, you know, his father was like 85 years old, right? He came out when he was like 80 or something.
Oh, wow.
And like magically, a movie star like slips you like a check. Do you know what I mean? And that's the kind of power that's behind the documentary. So we're going to open at the Grauman's Chinese Theater in Los Angeles and at the Tribeca Theater, because we have to have a theatrical run of a week so that we can be eligible for awards. And then and I guess it's on the bidding block now. I don't do that kind of stuff, but the end run is Netflix. So, and they're saying January 2018, I believe. So yeah, it's here. It's ready to go. And I'm really thrilled. I can't wait to be finished with it. I'll have to go on the road and I'll get to talk about this stuff for another 6 to 8 months, and then I never have to say Jesse Walsh is a homo again. I don't have to. I'm so tired of Jesse Walsh. I love him, but you know, it's like you tell these stories so many times. But when you get into the authenticity of it, and when you get real, like we just got real a second ago, it always resonates. People in the room always recognize real pain or really striving. You know, and, yeah, absolutely. And following your dream, you know, because that's what all of this is about, is following your dream, you know. I just know this was going to be my dream, you know. So, yeah.
One thing I always like asking when I get the opportunity to talk to actresses in the iconic horror franchises is, what was it when you guys were younger, teenage age, even younger than that, when you first get exposed to the horror genre that used to scare you guys, if anything?
Well, for me, it was the unknown.
Okay.
What you couldn't see was
Yeah.
scarier than what you could see. Then it's more in the imagination.
Right? There's nothing scarier than when you can dream up his own behind the other end of a dark hallway or door knocking, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, for me it was never the boogeyman. Like I was never a fright. Like the first scary movies I saw were, my mother one night was going to church on a Sunday night, and my dad wanted to take us to the drive-in. And she said, whatever, no, I'll tell you my age. And she was like, don't take those kids to see Bonnie and Clyde, right? And so she said, what do you want to see? And we're like, Bonnie and Clyde. So off we go in our pajamas to see Bonnie and Clyde. But the bill is Bonnie and Clyde, Straw Dogs, Last House on the Left, and In Cold Blood. So we're there, the sun's coming up, and me and my dad are sitting in the front seat. Everybody's asleep in the back. And I grew up a short amount of time away from where In Cold Blood took place, on a farm. And for me, that, like, I live in New York City, aren't you terrified? I was like, the first solid breath I ever took was when I stepped into New York City. I feel completely safe with 10 million people. But put me on a farm, in the middle of a field, in a house where nobody can hear you scream, I'm like, I don't want to go there. Like, that to me would be a nightmare, these people who live in Idaho and places like that.
Isolation.
Isolation, and they come in with the chainsaws, and they get you, and they're trying to get you safe, and you know you're broke, and you don't have any money, so you can't give up the fortune. That's my nightmare, actually.
So guys, let's open up to Q&A for these two. Does anyone have a question? Yeah.
This is for Mark. I believe that Jesse, like you're saying about Jesse, the fact that it was actually, I think it was the coach. Because you never know what would happen if Freddy didn't show up. I think the coach had an idea of what to do because he liked to go to those bars. That's my take on that scene.
On the
Shower scene.
The shower. I think that's the most deserved kill in the entire series.
Yeah.
Like, we're not big on killing, but like in real life, of course. But well, maybe one of us is. There may be somebody up there who's the other one. But yeah, but like look at that scene too. Like, we go back to like Never Sleep Again. Okay. Bob Shea, who's the producer of New Line Cinema. Right, he's a billionaire living in Los Angeles and New York, plays the bartender in the leather harness. Okay, he owns Lord of the Rings, Nightmare on Elm Street, he's a billionaire, right? And he doesn't know that he's in a gay bar. Like, do you buy that? Right?
Yeah.
So, and then the gym coach takes me and he's gonna rape me. That's quite obviously what's happening. Is like, and I also like the kind of thing where people go like, oh, you know what, they tried to disown Freddy from being a pedophile. Like, oh, he can't be a pedophile, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're all like 16 years old. Like, what the fuck is, I mean, we're all kids. You know? We're not grown-ups. We're 16, 15, 14, and he's, sexualizing all of us, obviously. But I think the gym coach was going to rape Jesse, and I would shoot him myself. So there you go, with a gun. So that would be no problem for me.
That's interesting. there's all the, Freddy can't be a pedophile, but the gym coach can kidnap Jesse and make him run laps and then rape him in the shower.
Right.
We're totally fine with that. That's,
Exactly.
yeah, so.
But don't scream like a girl. That's so. But it's, I think actually like this movie holds a lot of really interesting social things, and besides the fact that it actually is a really good movie, I think. And I think the reason it's an outlier in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. It's different than the rest of them, but it's very different for a reason. I mean, it's the reason I set up. Wes Craven did not want to have a franchise, so then it all comes down to money. So then Wes Craven, and Wes is in my documentary before he died, and I said this to him, it's like the most disrespectful thing that you could do to another set of actors and production. You had a hit movie, you didn't want to make another one, these people picked up the ball, did the best they could with it, made $35 million on their opening weekend, and then when you saw the dollar signs, you decided to come back and make it into a franchise, but you're just going to ignore all the work we did.
Yeah.
And pretend we never existed. There's a contract from NECA, which you guys all know NECA, right? That absolutely you're never allowed to make a Jesse figure. Ever.
Oh, wow.
And the reason you can't make a Jesse figure is, to be quite honest with you, is I get a percentage of all the money that comes from it. It's in my deal. That any affiliated things with Nightmare on Elm Street, I get the money. And they don't make them. Right? And that's when the business comes into play. So Wes Craven had a vested interest in not liking Nightmare on Elm Street because it was his baby, right? But you have to remember, his baby we wouldn't be sitting here today if it hadn't been for Nightmare on Elm Street 2. If we hadn't made no money, there would be no 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Right.
And we got great reviews. The reviews for Nightmare on Elm Street 2, if you would actually look at them, were fabulous, especially for Hurricane. But for all of them, but we got, and it was well reviewed. We got a lot of money, and we became iconic. We're a part of that family, even though this weekend there's a show at Alamo Comic-Con. And this is pretty typical. Everybody from Nightmare on Elm Street is there except for Jim and I. So 1, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 are all there, and we're here talking to you. So, and that's the way it rolls. We travel on the road.
And we're glad.
We
We're glad.
And we like it like this, it's fine, we accept it. But we're still that odd child in the family. So, we're the one out rowing our own boat. Yes.
Now, if you guys made 35, were they expecting it to only make 5 or 10, or what was the target? Do you remember?
Oh, you mean for the money?
The movie, yeah, when they made it, did they think it was only going to make 5?
What was your expectation when it was done? Like, did you think it was going to be as big as what it became?
I had no expectation. It was just really good.
Yeah.
The movie was made for a couple $1 million. So had it made $10 million, it would have been a big success. My experience was in New York City. I was in New York City. She was in California for the opening. And it was on every screen in every available movie theater in New York City on the opening weekend, which was Halloween. And it was sold out by 10 o'clock in the morning. So it was literally Nightmare on Elm Street everywhere. And like Robert Englund led the Halloween parade and that kind of stuff. Just overnight it became beyond anything. I mean, if you did that in today's dollars, we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars. It would be like the opening of it. It's the same, thing, because movie tickets were $2. So, I mean, it was pretty, but it was a big deal. I mean, it was a very, very big deal. And strangely enough, it's remained a big deal for the rest of our lives. Like, I never dreamed when this little 19-year-old girl walked into my life, that here we are, there's her husband, I think. I've known her longer than she, of course, the husband knows her a lot better than I do. I met her first, we're still here, you know what I mean? And probably my accountant said, if we wanted to, and that's a big if, when we're in our 70s, we'll probably be sitting on the table like going, do you want me to sign your lunch bucket for you? Because it'll still be happening, in the next generation and the next generation. So it's just a gift.
Does anybody else have?
After you guys have made your movies, in any of them? Did you guys like have like nightmares from them?
I did not. No, I guess I was able to separate. Yeah.
I think I know seen like the documentary on some of the actors that have been, for the movies that have
Yeah, no, me neither. I mean, my nightmare was actually the other. Have you ever seen a dream walking? Well, I did. And it was me. But no, yeah, I hear some of those. I mean, I can't watch Never Sleep Again because I was in hiding. Like I didn't have a phone. I lived in Mexico. I mean, I was way out of the United States at that point. So, and they found me 3 days before Never Sleep Again was over. And I was a little overweight and I didn't really know it. And so I flew the next day, my partner Hector and I flew to Los Angeles and we shot it the next day. And then when it came on, I looked at myself, I go, oh, fuck no. And I quickly dropped 15 pounds and, for the next time I was gonna be on camera. And so I've listened to it, but I really can't even watch it. It's like, that's vanity, but it's true. I don't wanna look at, when you guys take pictures of us, please come to our table and like take pictures. But take 10, right? And then pick a good one of you and us. Just pick a good one of you and we're like the crypt keeper or something. And you Google yourself and it's like, oh my God, who's that old man?
Thank you very much for being here. And,
thank you
on my behalf, I'm watching Elm Street since I was like, I don't know, 18,
Right.
17 years old, so I've been a big fan of Halloween and Nightmare on Elm Street.
What's your name?
Ruthie.
Ruthie, thanks. And thanks for asking a
You're
question
welcome.
too, because I could tell you were nervous. That's
Thank you
good.
very much.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Anybody else got a question for him? Yeah.
Kim, you mentioned that you hadn't seen part one when you made part two.
Right.
I was just curious if, Mark, you auditioned for the first one. Had you seen the original by the time you were shooting the second one, and were you attracted to the differences in the script of the second one, or how did you, what did you think of
How they
just kind of comparing the stories of the two?
Well, they showed it for me. They set up a screening for me in the big Grauman's Chinese Theater, which is a huge theater, in the middle of the night for just my friend Mark and I. And they gave me some popcorn and I sat down in the middle of Grauman's Chinese Theater and I watched it. And I was like, oh, Jesus, no, what have I done? You know what I mean? Because it's really, and like when you're looking at that, like, and you're on every page, it's a lot to contemplate and exciting because I mean this is for us, I don't know about her, but I would think I would have been dreaming about this since I was watching the Cher show and signing my autograph for the TV when I was 6, So this was my moment. So, but also the script, the funny thing about the script is, and I think this is very interesting, they had a shooting script which they gave to us, but it wasn't the real shooting script because it wasn't finished. So they were writing it as we went along. And that's why David Chascom, the writer, like he became bolder and bolder as time went by because he thought people weren't catching his corny jokes. And the truth of the matter, they weren't because it was all out of context. But the minute you cut it together, it's like, and he was laughing. He thought this was very, very funny. Like the probe games and the, all the double entendre. I mean, please, my God, I say he's inside me 100 times. I send the pictures that way. He's inside me. He's inside me. But I like to say to people, I'm inside him more than he's inside me. So do the math.
Anybody else have a question?
A really weird question.
I'm curious,
Sorry. We just got an autograph poster by you guys too that they wanted to actually, maybe a trivia question to answer for.
Ooh.
Oh.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know, Mark, can you think of a good one?
A good trivia
Yeah,
question.
Nightmare on Elm Street too.
Actually, let's see. I want to get a really good one for like you. I could do the easy one, like who's driving the bus, but I'm not going to do that. Really one good. It's at the tip of my. Okay. In my, who sings the song in my famous dance scene? Does anyone? Or do you know the name of the song?
That's too easy.
Yeah, okay, he's gonna get it, so go ahead. I asked it, so let's do
It
that.
touched me all night long.
Yes, Touch Me All Night Long by Fonda Ray. Anybody else?
I have one more for you. So when you talked about when you went and you met Wes for your documentary and you told him that,
Right.
what was his response?
Well, I also said, actually, it's interesting. I'm going to let you guys see the documentary because I don't want to give away too much. Because
Yeah.
I hope all of you will see it. All of the guys, all of the straight guys, said exactly the same thing. And we have a scene, and we're sitting in the marina in Florida, and Jack's shoulder is going on and this applies to Wes too. Like going on like, oh, I had no idea. And finally, Robert Russler, who's a pretty straightforward guy, Grady, just said, you know what, I'm tired of this. Jack, you're lying. It's stupid. He goes, I talked to you about this for a week before we started because I would have never pulled down his pants. I didn't think we would really be getting in bed together and all this kind of stuff. And you told me, no, it's really going to work. Just work with it. And Jack looked at him and said, you know, I don't remember that. I don't remember it that way. And then Marshall Bell, who's very straightforward, said, well, I do. Because I had the same conversation with you for 2 weeks about this S&M gym coach. So why don't you just man up?
Yeah.
What is it about this Jack shoulder that bothers you so much that you can't even say, 35 years ago, I was making a joke,
Right.
and times have changed, and I'm really sorry, and some people got hurt, but it's still a really good movie. Why can't you just say that? And that was all we were looking for, was somebody to say, for David especially, it's like, yeah, I was making a joke, and it was a bad joke on my part, but the movie's successful, and I hope you love me, and that was it. And I'd say, I forgive you, and I love you, but no, none of these boys do that. So then I said to them, this is my lawyer, you can speak to him. I have good lawyers. So this is a documentary, unlike Never Sleep Again, where they just let you say whatever you want. My documentary is you say whatever you want, we're filming you, then they introduce you to the lawyer, and then they give you the evidence that you're lying. And I felt that I deserved that at this point, because I gave them 35 years to say they were sorry, and they refused to do it. So I'm like some of these girls that you see in the news right now. What happened to me really happened to me, and it really shouldn't happen to anybody else. And I don't want it to happen to anybody else. I don't want anybody throwing rocks at your kids. I don't think it's okay. I don't think boys will be boys works anymore. I think boys will accept the consequences of their act. If you do something, own up to it, be a man, and say, I'm sorry. And then you get forgiven. But if you keep lying, then there's somebody like me who's going to come and nail your ass to the wall. So be warned. That's it.
Guys, they will be here at their table for the rest of the day, so go visit them, take a picture, get an autograph, support them so we can bring excellent guys like these two back to Sinister Creature Con. Thank you very much one more time.